Welcome to this series on Scrum Master preparation. Scrum is a very widely recognized agile development process. This nugget is going to introduce you not only to Scrum, but introduce you to the specifics of Scrum Master certification, or the process to follow to become a Scrum Master. In this introductory series, we're going to cover the very high level of what Scrum and Scrum Mastering is all about. We'll give you an overview of the Scrum process. We'll describe the Scrum Roles, of which the Scrum Master is one, but there are other key roles involved with Scrum project work. We'll talk about a key principle of Scrum development, which is we develop in releases, and within the releases we develop in individual sprints, where a sprint has a very defined time box. Then we'll talk about some of the Scrum rituals. You're going to hear, or you've probably heard, terms such as the daily Scrum, the sprint review process, the retrospective, and so on. So we'll orient you to the various Scrum rituals or processes to be followed in a Scrum development project. And we'll talk a little bit about Scrum management. There is management process in Scrum. And again, there's probably a few terms that you've heard of, such as the daily burn down chart, the story burn up chart, and so on, that will give you an overview of what Scrum management is all about, because there is a management process in Scrum. And finally, we'll talk about or differentiate the differences between Scrum and other agile development processes. But first, let's roll up our sleeves and focus on what is Scrum. So probably the very hardest thing I have to do in this Nugget series is to give you a definitive definition of Scrum. What is Scrum? Is Scrum a systems development approach? Yes. Is Scrum exclusive for systems development? Absolutely not. Anything, and I even hesitate to use the word thing, but anything you want to do that requires a level of work, typically of a unique variety, because Scrum is not truly designed for routine, day-to-day production, doing the same thing, manufacturing widgets day in, day out. That's not Scrum. So I would start to say Scrum is based on project-based work, where a project is a unique undertaking to develop, to deliver, to produce something new and unique. Does it have to be software? No. Typically, when we discuss Scrum, and most of the approaches we're going to discuss in this Nugget series are based on software development undertakings. And I really struggle with using the word project, because most Agilists and most Scrum specialists try to differentiate between what we do with Scrum approaches and traditional project approaches. And that is very, very true. Scrum is very different than traditional approaches, and we'll discuss that in a future nugget. But I will continue to largely call out the work we're doing within Scrum as project-based work, simply because it's unique and it has a goal. So when I refer to projects, I'm talking about something, some piece of work, something that we're going to do that is unique and has a goal and requires work. So again, I have found I use the word project most comfortably. As I say, there are other Scrumists, Agilists, who prefer to not use the word project, only because the word project takes us into more the traditional mindset. But in the pure textbook definition, Scrum is project-based work, often associated with software, but not always. You can do anything in a Scrum world. So enough of the definition. What is Scrum? Scrum is very much iterative. if you were to find a single word, in my humble opinion, that defines what Scrum is, it's iterative. We do the project in pieces. And in a true sense of Scrum, we will do the project in many pieces. Each release that we discussed in the introduction, and we'll talk more in this nugget, is a part of the project. Within each release, we'll have a sprint or a number of sprints that make up a release, and the sprint is developing a piece of the project. So that's why it's iterative. It's many pieces. And we'll talk about that aspect throughout this entire Nugget series. Another key differentiator of Scrum is it's very lightweight. You'll see by the time we finish this Nugget series, there is some very sound, some very complete, some very robust definitions of developing, working in a Scrum environment, but there's not a lot. There is not a lot of memorization. There is not a lot of process. There is not a lot of predefined forms. As a matter of fact, there are no predefined forms associated with Scrum. So it's very lightweight. It's easy to learn. Scrum is very easy to learn, but it's also very hard to master. I hope by the time we finish this Nugget series, you have absolutely done all of the learning and are even well on the way to mastering. As I've already said, it's very simple to understand, and it's based on these three principles. Transparent. There is nothing hidden. There's no traditional, now the team's going to go away for a period of time, 2 weeks, 2 months, etc., and we're going to do some work, and just trust us. There's none of that. Everything we do in a Scrum environment is extremely transparent, and as we'll discuss in just a moment when we get into the roles, there's going to be a product owner. And the product owner represents the business, and the product owner is part of the Scrum team. And the product owner is expected to participate daily in the Scrum activities. So if you have your product owner, if you have the business sitting with the team for a significant part of every day, there is no ability to be non-transparent. So Scrum is designed to be extremely transparent. We want that product owner, we want them involved, we want the feedback, and we want to adopt and adjust, which is the flexible and adaptable. And quality is built in. A lot of people, when they look at a Scrum process, or they first hear of Scrum process and says, yep, that's just the wild west. We just have a bunch of rogue programmers out there writing code as they see fit and calling it Scrum. It's absolutely not the case. Quality is built in throughout Scrum. Each one of our iterations, each one of our sprints, and each one of our releases has the expectation that we're delivering functional, tested, implementable, code. Or if you're interested in using Scrum for a non-development approach, each sprint results in meaningful results that the business can choose to use at the end of each sprint. So transparent, nothing is hidden. We want full active participation. We build quality in. It's not the wild west. It's tested, implementable code at every step of the process. And as we discuss some of the agile process that we're going to apply, continuous build, continuous integration, test-driven development. What we deliver in a Scrum environment is quality, and it's flexible and adaptable. Because our sprints are short. If we find we made some mistakes, if we find our approach is not correct, if we find we need to fix things, at the end of each sprint, we have a retrospective, and in the retrospective, we have the ability to be flexible and adaptable to improve, continuous process improvement. So with this relatively brief introduction to Scrum, I hope I've whetted your appetite on Scrum and that you're ready to continue through this introductory nugget and certainly through this entire series to better understand Scrum and to be better prepared to take your Scrum Master certification. So consistent with the fact that Scrum is lightweight and easy to understand, there are 5 main roles defined in a Scrum process. The key role is the Scrum Master. And I hesitated to say the key role is because most people will suggest the product owner is the key role in a Scrum project. For the sake of this Nugget series, I'm saying the key role is the Scrum Master because that's why we're developing, that's why we're taking this series, is to understand what Scrum Mastering is all about and to prepare you to become a certified Scrum Master. The Scrum Master is not a project manager. The Scrum Master is a guide. The Scrum Master is a facilitator. The Scrum Master may be a participating team member. The Scrum Master has no authority, but a lot of influence. I still believe the Scrum Master is key to the success of Scrum processes because without an effective Scrum Manager filling these roles of the guide, the facilitator, able to work in a non-authoritative manner, but to influence the team and guide the team to success, again, I believe the Scrum Master is certainly a key member of the Scrum development team, if not the key. As I say, a lot of other proponents of Scrum will say the product owner is the key role because the product owner is the person with the authority on what is done. And that's where the product owner's authority stops. The product owner defines what it is the team is going to develop. The product owner creates things called user stories. The product owner provides the details around what a user story is. And we'll talk much more about a user story later in the series. But the user story basically, again, identifies the what. And the product owner identifies the priority in which the whats are going to be done. And the product owner provides all of the details that the team needs to complete the whats. The team has the authority on how they accomplish the what. So the team is the people who work as a self-organizing, self-managing, self-controlled unit. There is no project manager in Scrum. There's a self-organizing, self-managing team that collectively determine how they're going to complete all of the work that the product owner has identified that needs to be done. The Scrum Master guides, facilitates, and influences the team, influences the businesses, and to me, one of the key roles of the Scrum Master is removes the roadblocks to allow the team to get the work done. And these three are really the core team. And they're all participating team members. As I said, we have transparency. The product owner is part of the team. The team does the work.